Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. It's fantastic Friday. And a lot of people are out getting their carnival on, but a lot of people have been messaging me asking, are we doing a live video tonight? And as the live video has become a sort of a meeting place for peppers, local and abroad, I thought, why not? Let's do a little something, have a conversation. I don't know what size crowd we're going to expect tonight, as it's Friday before Carnival, but let's create the platform for the peppers to meet and greet each other, because that's what happens on the live. And let's talk about possibilities. Possibilities. I've been reading a lot of stuff. About developed countries, and I've been following a sort of an, I don't want to say an equation, but you could almost tell the thought process that operates Japan, Holland, Canada. Those are as diverse as you could get. Japan, Holland, Canada. I just use the three of them as an example. But if you look at them, you could identify a common thought. And I wanted to touch on that as possibilities. Now, today I was listening to Mariano Brown. He was a minister of finance under the PNM. He's very outspoken. In fact, he's got a lot of licks by PNM people for having the audacity to stand against PNM policies when it needs be. And I have to publicly acknowledge anybody who demonstrates a love for country above party. And if you could set aside your own personal needs, because I am sure I watching Rowley mending fences with other big name PNMites, people getting national medals and big jobs. And I sure Mariano Brown, if he wanted to, could fix himself. Go and get a little post, take a little money, line, get some blue lights. That seems to be what drives most politicians. But I'm getting a little crew of public leaders who operate on another level, who's concerned for better Trinidad and Tobago. I think coming closer to election time, on PEP platforms, it probably won't be as grand as UNC platforms and as PNM platforms, because we won't have $100 million donors coming to cut deals. That's not going to happen under the Progressive Empowerment Party. So I assume we would have conservative, what we could afford platforms, but I think the people who are going to stand up on those platforms and talk to you, they're going to come across like the X-Men, like superheroes. You're not going to believe the kind of people that are already coalescing and adding to the Progressive Empowerment Party. Some of the best in medicine, some of the best in sport, some of the best in agriculture and food production. We have three of the best financial minds, I would say, in the Western world. That if you sit in a conversation, because, and I tell you all the time, the ability to learn and regurgitate that education model failed. It's failing. You don't just want to create drones. We've done that to death, and we've misused the thinking process. The real ability to strive for is to seek out knowledge that complements not only your knowledge, but the journey that you're on. Because it's all a journey of acquisition. We're all trying to get somewhere, and we're trying to be something. And it can't just be that you're dead with plenty of money in the bank. That's a wasted life. That is a completely wasted life. If all you've accomplished, if you did, I remember sitting at a businessman's funeral. People ask me to stop calling names. I'll stop calling names. But a very wealthy and very successful businessman's funeral. And his son was saying daddy died. His daddy died doing what he loved, working. And I felt so sad for him thinking that his daddy loved working more than anything else. Because they're fabulously wealthy. Generations can't spend the money they have. And if they still define themselves by working, I ain't gonna get caught up on this, but hoarding of any kind is a mental illness. If you already have more than enough and you still need to work, I feel sorry for Basdeo Panday. Basdeo Panday fighting for an office in Rienzi that he should give up. Basdeo Panday should be touring the schools in this country. If I was, should I get to the what I think is the end of my contributing career, I'd like to write what I know and make it available to the generations coming, so they start off higher than I started, and I would tour the schools. That's where you need to go. That's what your foundation should be doing. There's nothing for you in the Chamber of Commerce, pal. Your timer, your alarm, you're in the literal sunset of your life. That's what you're fighting for. You want real legacy? Look at Jimmy Carter. When Jimmy Carter finally dies, and the world realizes, because you know the media are going to want to climb up on his coffin to get ratings, and when they finally realize what this man Jimmy Carter has done with his life since coming out of the office of President of the United States, when people realize what a humanitarian, what a good soul he is, calm, quiet service. He's probably one of the greatest men who ever lived. You don't know that because it's not sexy for the media to tell you that that is a president that don't even work with Secret Service agents. He is the most unassuming person. I see you all sharing, and you showed about a president of some Eastern Bloc country that takes the bus and drives his own old car. That's good. But right here in the West, Jimmy Carter, do some research. Habitat for Humanity. Find out some of the work that he's been doing. The point I want to make is we have in our ranks some people that have not been getting frontline media in Trinidad and Tobago because they're doing nothing that sells newspapers. And our media has become glory whores. And check it for yourself. You could find your own words. Somebody might say, Phil, why you would call them glory whores? But you check it. You check what the media amplifies and check what they push aside. A lot of good also happens in this country, but I'm studying that right now. Possibilities. We've become conditioned to blame ourselves and each other. We've become conditioned, we've allowed the conditioning to take root. The Progressive Empowerment Party's policies are causing something of an upset in the national conversation because many people at the top level had assumed that all of us know our place. That everybody understand that your job in life is to work hard and party hard and don't challenge nothing. That a beer is a Carib and that KFC is dinner and that once you get paid, some of the money is for White Oak and all that kind of foolishness. And they thought that all of us knew our place and that we were not going to challenge what they established as an order. And along comes a real political movement now. When they start, they watch my complexion, So they link me up with people like Stephen Cadiz, but they realize that the only similarity between me and Stephen Cadiz is, I guess, we lighter than some, he whiter than me. That was the first thing to fall away. Then they wanted to compare us to the NAR, and then they wanted to compare ONR, and then they wanted to compare us to the COP, and they want you to be a knife and fork party. But the Progressive Empowerment Party is doing things on the ground with people, for people. We're actually building out on the ground faster than any political party. That's why I say the fastest growing political party in the country's history. No political party has been as busy on the ground as we are. I'm staying focused on that. But it is the policies of this party. It is the policies of the Progressive Empowerment Party. Somebody said to me tonight, he said, because they're harassing me to do this live video, I saw it. But he said to me that we were talking about how important knowledge is. How important having a knowledge-based society is. How important it is that our people understand not only where they come from, but have a vision for themselves. I'll give you an idea of a vision for a country. This is no joke. The Japan that was wiped out in World War II and the Japan that exists now, this is just Japan. Japan has such a high standard of social development and management that you can't miss it. Beverages and anything sold in a can must have its name written on top of the can in Braille. I mean, you could stop right there. There are umbrella lockers inside every building that you could leave your umbrella and nobody could take it. Nobody would take it. There are baby seats attached to the wall in most bathrooms. Now, unless you're a parent, a toddler or a baby, you will never know how important that is. Somebody sent me pictures of Japanese food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner in a hospital. And I thought that this was a 5-course meal in a 3-star, 4-star restaurant. The manhole covers in Japan are also works of art, carved in metal. In Japan, schools have no custodians, they have no janitors. Instead, the students do the cleaning themselves as a part of showing gratitude to the school and learning how to become more productive members of society. Now, hey, that alone is a game changer, because you won't dirty what you have to clean. At some point, you ended up cleaning it. You have to clean your classroom, so you're not going to dirty it. I mean, it's such an essential life lesson. That is, if we should so copy that. Somebody said, I dropped my shopping bag on the street of Osaka. And when I went back to look for it later that day, someone had placed it next to a tree untouched. The drainage in Japan, the normal roadside drainage, is so clean, koi fish live in the drain channels. And the thing that made me want to talk about this, from their subway, there's a staircase divided by a railing. Just a simple railing. But on one side, you could clearly see on 4 steps, 4 of the risers going up, a down arrow. And everybody uses the upside of the step, leaving the downside. No, John Oja, I'm not reading this to tell you go and live in Japan. I want to tell you that you have to have a vision for the country. You have to have an idea. We talk about a lot of policies, and we'll talk about one policy tonight. But these are small things that you have to encourage, you have to inculcate in people. I read the 23 countries with the highest Wi-Fi, broadband, fastest internet speeds. And it was so amazing that the top 5, the top 10, are 10 of the most progressive, successful countries in the world. Let me tell you the top 10. Number 10 is Jersey. I didn't know this before. There's a country which is strictly speaking not a country, and it's called Jersey. It's a crown dependency. And apparently that's why we have a New Jersey. Number 9 is Hungary. Number 8 is Luxembourg. Number 7 is the Netherlands. Number 6 is Belgium. Number 5 is Romania. Number 4 is Norway. Number 3 is Denmark. Number 2 is Sweden. And number 1 is Singapore. Now, Singapore is an embarrassment to Trinidad and Tobago that Singapore exists. Because Singapore, half the size of Trinidad, started off independent at the same time as Trinidad, went on to become one of the most developed first world nations in the world, and without having oil and gas. Trinidad, that had massive booms, all we have to show for it is a rogues gallery of criminals. And I wanted to tell you, that we live in a country, you listen to the conversation, you watch what people exchange on threads. Sometimes I delete them, not because I don't want people to disagree, It's just that sometimes you have to disagree the foolishness from the conversation because it could lead other people astray. We're trying to change the narrative. So don't tell me it was always so, or we like it so, we jamming still. I don't want that. I don't want the blame game. I'm not interested in that. We're actually doing something for a reason. We're doing it for a purpose. Tonight I posted about just agriculture, what agriculture could do for this country. And somebody come and talk about, well, the farmers to blame, all of them grow tomatoes, now we have too much tomatoes. Now I know in a proper run country, Trinidad and Tobago, a progressive empowerment party government would set the crop schedule based on national consumption so that we don't have gluts, we don't have shortages, and that all farmers get to make a decent profit. But I asked that guy who said that the farmers too stupid and that I said, y'all couldn't organize yourself a WhatsApp group? Let's say I grow tomatoes, so when you see 20 people growing tomatoes, you might say, well, I might grow pimento or side. You couldn't do something like that? Anyway, I was trying to keep it real mellow tonight, but the thing I wanted to raise, and you could check this face out, you could tell if a person has responsibilities in life by their behavior. If you meet somebody, you could tell, especially if somebody is a homeowner. Homeowners tend to carry themselves a different way. Homeowners are less likely to commit crime or get themselves in trouble. Homeowners are very prudent and financially responsible. Homeowners have that issue to deal with. And it is this, and this is why the Progressive Empowerment Party has home ownership for all as its most important policy. And the government has a responsibility to ensure that their jobs are plenty so that everybody who wants a job could have one, and everyone who has a job could own a home. And we can build houses for $100,000, starter homes, we can build them. And we have more than enough land to do this, and no, we don't have to use the farmland. We could build houses for everybody. When people tell me, you see, the absence of critical thinking is what leads them astray. People just tell you they don't have enough land for all them houses. So I want to ask them, where are all the people living now? Not in houses, not in apartments somewhere. They're living in something. From the moment the state makes starter homes available to first-time homeowners for $100,000, from the time the state does that, the price of property will come down. The price of property under $1 million will trend down as the market tries to sell itself to this growing mass of people. And if the state makes zero deposit zero interest loans available to first-time homeowners up to 30 years for up to $1 million or $1.5 million. The price of homes will come down dramatically as everybody tries to sell to them. You see, the value of homes and housing and real estate in Trinidad and Tobago is artificial. It's not a real value. It's not based on anything other than, and this is the truth, those who have money buy up property to hoard it as an investment and rent it out as an income. And that's okay. But when you have people stealing hundreds of millions of dollars from the treasury or laundering cocaine and other contraband dollars and putting it in real estate, it creates an artificial demand that drives the price up. If the state has to build new houses, $100,000 houses, for people who are qualifying for zero deposit, zero interest loans, the people who own properties now that are hoarding it will lose their tenants. And that is the first step. But the first step is to make sure that everybody who wants a home can own a home. Now I'll tell you this too. And for the people who own many properties, I know a guy, he say he own 100 houses. The Progressive Empowerment Party supports a property tax. But our property tax regime that we propose is a 0% tax on your first home. Say that again. The Progressive Empowerment Party proposes 0% property tax on your first home, 5% property tax on your second home, 10% on your third, 15% on your fourth, 20% on your fifth, until you get to a point where you will be paying the value of the house to the state every year to make you consider hoarding houses is not a good business idea. Because it is important to the operation of state that the price of housing be within the reach of the average person. When you hear them talk about a living wage, when talking about the minimum wage, if the minimum wage cannot pay a mortgage, it cannot qualify as a living wage. According to their own website, the Home Mortgage Bank offers the lowest rates to people who are working for $15,000 a month combined incomes. The minimum wage is $2,250. That means two people earning the minimum wage, $4,500. The bank threshold for credit that they say safeguards the economy, 40%. 40% of your income must be set aside to cover mortgage. That means two minimum wage earners could spend $2,000 on their mortgage. The cheapest house you could find on the market is $1 million. Now, right now, before the PEP. And the mortgage on $1 million now is between $7,500 and $9,000 a month. And we just said that two minimum wage earners can earn $4,500 a month. But if you give them zero deposit, zero interest for 30 years, you will bring the mortgage per $100,000 down to $500 a month. $500 a month. That means a two-person minimum wage earners could qualify for a $400,000 house. Now if we tell you a starter home is $100,000. If we tell you a starter home is $100,000, then for $400,000, you're getting a significantly better house. Yeah? Think about it. Think about that. Think about the average person, bottom rung of the society, being able to own a home. Husband and wife, janitor, security guard, restaurant worker, waitress, clerical assistant at the bottom rung, being able to own a home. The effect on the national psyche will be so drastic, because you see, when people own a home, they invest in the development of their home and their family. People who own a home are not transient. People who own a home are more focused on doing right than doing wrong. The science there, the numbers there. Societies where home ownership is the highest, crime and criminality and the social ills are the lowest. Those are factual numbers that you could check. The government's job should have been, and any government that coming into office must tell you this: jobs and home ownership are the most important function of the government. If we dealt just with those two things, if we dealt with jobs and home ownership, crime will start to collapse on its own. When you pick up the phone to call Harry to tell him you have a work to put on tomorrow night, Harry will tell you, I can't. I work in 2 jobs, I pay my mortgage, and we just buy a fridge from Courts. I can't risk it. Wife pregnant. You take these people who out there right now suffering and hustling and looking to survive, and you give them hope. Just give them hope. Give them a stake in the country. You want to know another benefit of universal home ownership? It becomes a front line in the war against crime. Right now, in the average community, middle class, 50% of the homes are rented. But in the lowest classes, the lower you go in the value of the property and the community, the higher the rental rate goes. And people who rent have very little interest in anything beyond their front gate. But if you have a street where of the 12 houses on the street, 10 are owned by the people who live in them, they will not only maintain the infrastructure of their street and their neighborhood, but they will organize themselves and stand against the invasion of criminality into their community. You can't come and set up a gang house or a drug block or a whore house in their community. You can't build a bar. They will organize themselves and sue you. A woman named Clara Rosa de Lima, her legacy is she stopped Chinese Association renting itself out as a FET venue. She stopped it. She objected to every license. She went to every court hearing. And she lost and she lost and she lost until she won. And the day she won, Chinese Association never was able to get a bar license and a dance hall license to inflict horror on the communities. There was a time this country was a lot less, and I say as sophisticated, but it's not, but it's a lot less sophisticated. And a lot of us don't think about each other. But home ownership gives you a stake. If Clara Rosa de Lima wasn't living where she was living, if that wasn't her home, she'd have get fed up and she'd have moved, to the detriment of the rest of the community. And the rest of the community should erect a statue in her honor. Fidel Gonzalez, rest in peace. I think Clara died as well. Fidel Gonzalez did more for St. Joseph than any member of parliament who has ever represented St. Joseph. They all know his name. Fidel Gonzalez was a tireless activist for the development of the community of St. Joseph. And the point makes itself that people who own property in a community have a vested interest in the development of the community, because as the value of the community rises, the equity in their home rises. So even if it is a selfish reason, they may waiting for URP and CPEP to come and trim the grass in the drain on the side of the road or the pavement, because everything in front of their house getting taken care of. That's the truth. People who own their homes are less likely to be out running drunk in the night, abandoning their children to have Synergy TV raise them. Pasa pasa. When you talk to the lowest rungs of society, what you get is despair, the opposite of hope. They tell you they have nothing for me. They have nothing for me. That's what they tell you. There was an actual time when they used to say, live fast, die young, and leave a pretty corpse. Because they had no hope for them. Aging in Trinidad and Tobago meant more and more hardship till you're dead. We've never had a government that took seriously the issues of the youth, the issues of the people, the issues of the elders. The elders in Trinidad and Tobago are treated with scant courtesy and total disregard. It's almost like they're a bother and a burden. We're a mad little country. The people that build the nation that we live in, we treat like they're disposable. In a real country, the elders would be respected. The government would use them as the resource that they are. So much information resides in the minds of our elders. So much experience, so much guidance, so much love. You could imagine if you had a government that made it possible for the elders to be involved in the development of society. You could imagine if we gave the classrooms in all the schools that when they close, school closed for the day, give the elders who want to use a classroom to teach what they know, or to teach homework supervision, or to get involved in Tai Chi or macrame or ceramics. Build a community out of the elders, give them something to hope for. Don't send them to sit down home and watch TV and wait to dead. The elders in Trinidad and Tobago could pass knowledge on to the young people in craft, in culture, in sport, in marketing, in science, in literature, in just everyday life, in experience. Learn from the mistakes of others so you don't have to make all of them yourself. The elders could have classes. I tell you, there are people who retire out of the system at the pinnacle of their knowledge and experience and go home to putter about. Give them the opportunity to hold 3 classes a week. Journalism, marketing, communication, publishing. You could make a list. Medicine, there is no limit. There are no limits to this. But even basic homework supervision, while the parents fighting because we can't flick a switch and change Trinidad, we're going to have to bring the cost of living in line with wages so that you don't have to work like mad people. But that's not going to happen at the flick of a switch. It's going to take a couple years. We have to realign the economy, and we are very much aware of that. But imagine the powerful force of community building, the young people and the elders in the same community exchanging ideas. The opportunities that could come from that are boundless. The opportunities are boundless. Social management of the country is the thing that is most lacking in Trinidad and Tobago. All of our systems treat our people like consumers and labor. And we don't realize the power of our labor and our consumption. We are supposed to get much more for it than we get. A minimum wage that is a living wage a minimum wage that could afford home ownership, an elders council, bringing the elders back into society. Imagine a Trinidad and Tobago, one term into a progressive empowerment party government. All the schools are now prestige schools. All the schools are now zoned. We've decentralized all the government offices out of Port of Spain so that the 200,000 3-hour trek to Port of Spain every morning and evening over. That people could now work in the community they live in. Their children going to school in the community they live in. They qualify for finance to buy a home in the community they live in. And all of a sudden, we're starting to knit the community together. When you knit a community together, it's not transient people. When people exchange ideas and spend time, culture grows out of that. Culture comes out of that. It's the exchange between people. Everything that happens that we consider culture in this country started as a conversation and an idea exchange. And that's what you need going on. But you can't have that happening if your neighbors today is different people to your neighbors 2 years ago because you had to move house because your landlord raised your rent. Just that. Just build the community back. Build communities. The Progressive Empowerment Party tells you without hesitation, without fear of contradiction, a nation is a collection of communities. If all of your policies rebuild the community, knits the family, the neighborhood, the community together, your constituencies will be strong and your country will be strong. Crime, criminals, wrongdoers, they don't come from another country, they come from among us. But we have nothing in place to take care of them. We have nothing in place. Our governance structure disconnects people from the authority of the state. And the ridiculous irony of that is it belongs to them. When the Progressive Empowerment Party tells you abolish local government, it sounds radical. But local government is the most confused thing in Trinidad and Tobago. They don't understand it and the people don't understand it. The Diego Martin Regional Corporation has 2 versions of itself, and this is just Diego Martin. There's the actual Diego Martin Regional Corporation and there's the elected Diego Martin Regional Corporation, and those 2 things, they don't even talk. They don't talk to each other. That's inside the corporation. We've written, just an aside, all the corporations about kiss-making company vending illegally according to the Municipal Corporations Act that speaks local government into action, into existence. And they don't know how to take action on that. They don't know how to make a next step forward on that. It's a sham. It's a waste of money. Local government is job for the boys, and it's a way for the actual government to tell you somebody else to blame but them. We have a clear idea as to how the constituencies should operate. The important things in the management of a constituency: health, education, public works, public utilities, security. Those 5 things need to be a board of supervisors working in tandem with the elected member of parliament, whose job it is to secure funding every year in the budget to address all of the issues in the constituency. And that the supervisor of public works is responsible for all sidewalks, all pavements, all public spaces, all works that take place in the community, all development, all maintenance, all infrastructure comes under the supervisor of public works. The supervisor of public utilities is responsible for water and electricity, and even things like cable and internet should fall under the supervisor of public utilities so that the people have somebody to go to address problems. The supervisor of education is responsible for the performance of the children. The supervisor of public health is responsible for all of the operations of all the health centers and anything to do with that. So that if you call an ambulance and it takes more than 7 minutes to get to you, the first person you're talking to is the supervisor of public health. It's him or her to answer for that. And it's him or her to launch the investigation to identify what failed. Local government needs to be abolished. But when you create a board of supervisors, in the constituency, public works, public utilities, health, security, education, you could then abolish the regional health authority model. Abolish it. It doesn't work in Trinidad and Tobago. Abolish the regional health authorities. All 41 constituencies will be responsible for their own healthcare centers through the supervisor of public health. You can abolish the police service precinct model now. All 41 constituencies should have a deputy commissioner of police for each constituency. All of a sudden the thing makes sense. All of a sudden you have police officers and police stations responsible for just their constituency and what takes place in it. And at the end of every term, the commissioner of police could monitor the numbers and the performance of every constituency for crime, so that he or she would know if the deputy commissioner of police for that constituency is functioning. If numbers are up, he's going to ask, or she's going to ask, why do we have crime up in Diego Martin West? And he or she is going to say, well, we have problems with this, or we have problems with that, or we need this to address. So the commissioner of police will be able to put that in place and see if that was indeed the problem. If the numbers continue to rise, the next step has to be to replace that deputy commissioner of police. I strongly recommend the team swap model that look for the person whose constituency have the lowest numbers, the deputy commissioner of police who's performing the best, and swap them and see if the numbers in the lowest continue to stay low and if this one brought under control. Because you'll be able to identify if the squeaky wheel needs grease or if it needs changing. And jobs for the boys under the Progressive Empowerment Party will be a thing of the past. People tell you they don't want Bacchanal, they want information. But people in Trinidad and Tobago are too lazy to even take responsibility. Some people are too lazy to take responsibility for knowing these things. And that's why we have to work as hard as we do. Because we need everyone understanding what the role of government is. The welfare of the citizens is the reason, purpose, and function of government. That's it. And to get it done, as Gary Felix just said, measure performance. Put in positions of responsibility, not authority, in positions of responsibility, people who are capable of managing public health, public works, security, education. Make sure that we can take care at the bottom rung. We're talking about having an organization that replaces all of those duplications, so that straight from central government, all the constituency is going to need is a budget allocation. Budget allocation. Every constituency will have an operating budget that together the constituency board of supervisors will come up with a request at budget time and forward to the Minister of Finance as their budgetary request to operate the constituency for the next fiscal year. Those numbers are going to be based on requirements that the people have, that they've planned for the next year to operate the constituency. Simple things like that. Simple things like that. should have been the way this country has been run from the start. People asking me again, an ex-person asking me about the issue of Venezuelans living here. I think that the government has no plan, and they're trying to do the same thing they did with the Dominicans, which didn't work then. So they played you all like a song. The first thing they did was they ignored the Venezuelans and they treated them badly. So it caused an uproar in the society that the government wanted. The government wanted that uproar so they could come now and give them cards. And there is every likelihood they're going to try to use this now to gerrymander the electoral process. But that is an issue that has to be confronted at a national level. Do we trust the EBC? There should have been a plan for, and we've been talking this 5 years now. We've been talking 5 years now that this crisis is coming from Venezuela. Prepare for it. Cedros is 7 miles from Venezuela. We should have built in Cedros facilities to manage Venezuelan people. I am reading people talking about bring them here and put them to work, and okay, fine. But just the drop off and pick up stops on the road that causes traffic, doubles and triples. They say we have 60,000 Venezuelans here. I believe it's 100,000. We have in Trinidad and Tobago about 250,000 illegal immigrants. Not just Venezuelans. About 250,000. When Gary Griffith was Minister of National Security, we had checked, and there was 110,000 small islanders who overstayed their welcome. And those were the people that he was dealing with, and he was addressing that before he was summarily dismissed by Kamla Persad-Bissessar. But we have a lot of, and it's not just Venezuelans, but we're noticing the Venezuelans because the Chinese good at staying underground, and we're all these small islanders, they just look like us. You can't tell, when you see a black Venezuelan, you can't tell, but it's the blonde hair, blue eyes that tripping you all up. Yeah? So, the issue that the government creates an opportunity without putting anything in place in a nation that does not have the right infrastructure in place to take care of its own people, I think is madness. I think we should open Trinidad as an avenue for Venezuelans to access the world. Lisa Glasgow just suggested sending them Canada. I think the Commonwealth should meet urgently and find out who could take how many. If Canada could take 1 million, whatever. And Trinidad could be a landing point for them to come and organize and get on a plane and go somewhere that could actually treat with them. We can manage our own people in our own country. So your heart could be as bleeding as it wants. It will change if you have to end up in a situation where foreigners are getting services that you can't access for you and your family. And I'm talking about essential services. Yes, we have a responsibility to help some, but we can't let it drown us, because then there would be no value in the chain to that. It would just be another failed nation next door to Venezuela. So I think that the conversation that we need to have as a nation has to be, how do we measure our involvement in the Venezuelan crisis? What service can we be? And the only thing that makes sense to me is we be a transition point, that we create transition facilities and we allow processing for them to go to larger countries. I think that is the only thing that we could facilitate. They have massive countries around Venezuela, Guyana, Brazil, Colombia, that could take a lot more if they all want to leave. But it will be ludicrous for all those Venezuelans to leave a nation with the largest oil reserves in the world. They can't go back and claim it back if they don't defend it now. My policy, my position that I propose, the Progressive Empowerment Party hasn't had a chance to weigh in on this since the government has done what it's done without consultation with anybody. But we propose that there be consultation. We need to look at the actual cost of this. There is a point in the cost where beyond that, we cannot afford it as a nation, we will collapse. Yeah? Peter Garcia asked, what about those who don't want to go? I don't know what you mean by what about those who don't want to go. We could only provide, and I'm saying something like a well-run refugee camp in Cedros, and we allow the United Nations and Canada and America and the Commonwealth to be represented with offices there that process people so that you will come to Trinidad and stay a couple of days, and we'll make sure that you get food and you have facilities to bathe and sleep. But we can't keep you because we can't take care of ourselves right now. Our country in trouble. Per capita, we must be worse off than Venezuela. We just don't know it yet. Venezuela have a lot of safety nets that we don't have. For all the people who beaten up about Maduro, Maduro disappear next week in about 3 weeks. Venezuela is a great place to live again because money will be pouring in, jobs will be pouring in, food will be pouring in. And yes, I understand that there are bigger global policies at work here, but I can't fight all of those things. Right now, my only concern is to make sure that the people of Trinidad and Tobago could have a good and decent life. We don't have to be a major player. We have a voice at the United Nations, and we should be able to say, respect the sovereignty of every nation. Respect it. But at some point, the other nations of the world have a responsibility to look in on countries where the people are suffering. Because it's one thing to say that you're a sovereign nation. I get that. I absolutely get that. But it's one thing to say that you're a sovereign nation. It's another thing entirely if your people don't have freedom. And if the freedom, and I know America have a horrible track record. A horrible track record. But what are the people fleeing? What are they fleeing? If they love Maduro, why are they leaving? I don't understand that. And if the people of Venezuela are not happy with their government, and any time, I think a good measure would be, if you don't have a recall facility to fire the government, anytime a government has to start using its military against the people, the rest of the world should intervene and disarm them. There should be no bullying. That the rights of the people trump the government. That the rights of the people are more important than the government's right to hold on to power. And if the people do not want the government that they have, they should have the right to regime change. It is their government. It is their country. Yeah? That's the truth. And we can't just make wild decisions without planning, because those same Venezuelan people could come here and starve. We have problems in Trinidad and Tobago, and we have to be addressing our problems. We can't get distracted, and I think this Venezuelan thing is a distraction, another distraction, because this government is robbing this nation blind, and Trinidadians can't whistle and walk. We chew one thing at a time. And it is why I have such a big problem with the media, because the media should have been the people leading the national conversation on the issues that need addressing. But they haven't. They've let us down. They've led us astray. They've taken 30 pieces of silver to betray us all. Yeah? Give the people in Venezuela a free and fair chance at an election. Let the United Nations set up an election organization. Go into Venezuela and give them an election and let Maduro run. Let Maduro and Guaido and everybody run. Just go in there and give them a free and fair election and let all of them run. And if the people vote back Maduro, wish them well and get out. It's their country. their country. Anyway, the issues that we need to address in this country are issues that are important to the development of Trinidad and Tobago. Somebody has to sit in that office that has a vision 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. What do we want to be? Can we list some things? Can we say that we want full literacy? We have about 50% of the people in this country functionally literate. We want full universal literacy, universal home ownership, proper jobs, policies, and careers. From the time we address those things, then we can start to address the other intangibles that are important to the operating of society. What we teach the children in school. You operate a country through legislation and taxation, but you manage the country that you become through education. What we teach the children in school is important because they come home and they tell you, Mommy, Daddy, my son Josh stopped me from smoking. When he was old enough to realize that I was smoking, and he found out that smoking could kill me, I used to have to hide from my child to smoke until he learned what the smell of cigarettes on me smelled like. And he pestered me until I just couldn't take it no more. Stop smoking. That's why I don't smoke. Children, that is the avenue to the development of the country. Teaching them respect, teaching them manners, teaching them community, teaching them love, teaching them sharing. We need to go back to that. We live a very selfish plantation life in this country. All of us want to outdo everybody else. You wake up in the morning and you're running. It's like that poster people put up. When you go into somebody's office, you know they're a type A personality. When you read that poster that the lion in the jungle knows when he wakes up in the morning, he needs to outrun the slowest gazelle or he will starve. And the gazelle knows when he wakes up in the morning, he has to outrun the fastest lion or he will die. And then the law of the jungle is when you wake up in the morning, you better be running. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. But we take that chain up and we live this life and they keep moving the ends. So this, a little inflation here and a little inflation there. So you have to run a little harder, work a little harder, get a little more frustrated. People are not happy. When you have high rates of alcohol and drug consumption in your country, you cannot war that away. People are choosing drugs and alcohol to escape the reality of how frustrating life is in Trinidad and Tobago. If life in Trinidad and Tobago was as enjoyable as we tell people it is on Facebook, we wouldn't need to be high and drunk all the time. We wouldn't need to be. Bring back the community, bring back culture. When you bring these things back, all of a sudden, the crime goes away. All of a sudden, we could live how we used to live when we were small. I tell people, when I was a little boy in Woodbrook, our parents used to throw us out of the house. Come back when the street lights come on. Children, I don't know, we have our children walking around with their head down in an iPhone and an iPad, and they're not making real relationships. So they're not getting intimacy, they're not getting sharing. Read Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There are chemicals in your body, feel-good chemicals in your body that are only produced from hugging, from actual physical exchange. We are not raising our people with the knowledge that they need to have. So we have massive numbers of bipolar, depression, anxiety, and other mental illnesses because we've broken the family, we've broken the community. People don't have friendships anymore. We lime in. All right, we lime in. But where's the friendships? We used to be outside in Woodbrook, sitting on the pavement, kicking ball in the road, in other people's house. You had friends. Friends that last a lifetime. I don't see that happening now. All of the crime and the parents working so hard and they have to drive for so long that the parents don't have time to be a friend and hug you up and read a story and ask you how school was. Those things are important. In Japan, they say for the first 4 years, for the first 4 grades, they have no exams. They're teaching them quality of life, how to live with each other, how to get along. what society means. We need to reintroduce whoever started this race, that who get all in the end win, lie to all of us. And we're going to stop it. And we're not going to stop it if we keep electing fools to government. Keith Rowley has no vision for this country, you know. This is his 4th year in office. And by now, if he had a clue, you would have seen. He has no idea what he's doing. He has no vision for the country. He has no vision for the people other than allowing his friends to rape the nation. And they're hungry raping it. And Kamla Persad-Bissessar was no better. Pandey pretend his legacy was building an airport that his friends thief out the country money to build. Patrick Manning was a criminal crook that made life worse for people. He tried to create a socialist state to manage black people on the bottom while allowing his finances to thief all the money. So on the bottom, black people chanting and organizing themselves into Petunia and Orchid groups, thinking that Papa Manning had a plan for their lives. OJT and ABC and CPEP and URP. All of it was to keep you distracted, dumb and foolish, while the big ones on top thief out this country's money. Trinidad and Tobago had 1,000 years of money. We don't have it anymore. We don't have it anymore. We do not have leadership in the parliament. There is not one name that you could call tonight in the parliament from the speaker and every member. There is not one name you could call in the Senate that you could say, I respect that person and I want my child to grow up like that person. Not one. Not one decent human being that you could say has love in their heart and compassion for the people. Not one. Not one that you could say has vision for this country, that when they speak I feel hope. Not one. Not one. Nobody in the parliament talking how to fix the broken justice system, just saying the justice system broken. In this dot, this postage stamp of an island that don't qualify as a county in a normal country, we can't fix our justice system. We can't unrogue the rogue police in Trinidad, our little 6,000 khaki short pants police, 65,000 police in New York straight like a pin. Internal affairs, we can't copy that. Success leaves clues all over the world. Finland, the #1 education model in the world, we still talking Concordat. Philip, you can't get past the Concordat. Well, they don't recognize me at all or what? Put me in that parliament. The Concordat will be over. The Archbishop and all those involved will sit down with me and talk. Tonight I watched the Archbishop of Port of Spain talking about getting back to basics. And he said that he liked what people was referring, bringing back Sparrow. I wonder if the Archbishop ever listened to the nastiness Sparrow used to sing. Because he's the Archbishop of Port of Spain. People just make pronunciation in this country without listening and thinking it through. We need our education system to stop being a two-tiered system where anybody could go and bribe and pay and get their child skipped over the rightful high performer in the SCA. From the moment that is a reality, from the moment you understand that 20% of the students are chosen, it has nothing to do with their results, then you realize that the SCA is to keep poor people in line. And that has to stop. Stop it. But I'm asking you, how is it possible that there is not one person in business, in culture, in law, not one, that we could say, hey, I respect that guy or that woman, I want my child to be like that? Not one person of high moral fiber in Trinidad and Tobago. They say that we had a problem trying to put on a living creche for Christmas. We get the baby, we get a shepherd, and we even find a virgin. But it was impossible to find 3 honorable wise men. That's a joke. But you get the point. And the point is this. We could do better when the election bell rings, because a lot of our people, we have to hide them. Because this government nasty and they will victimize people. Look at what they do me on a daily basis. We have to hide our people who want to jump out, you know. They want to come up and talk. I want to tell you something. We have people of impeccable virtue and character, thinkers, leaders in their fields, willing to get involved now. People who were offered positions under the People's Partnership and the PNM and said no thank you because they knew that they were morally bankrupt. But they see what we stand for in the Progressive Empowerment Party. You take us as we come. They have no pretense here. We talk plain, we talk straight. But the country that we want, surely the country that we want is a better nation. Surely the country that we want is a Trinidad and Tobago where everybody could feel like they come from somewhere. Hope and opportunity. We could bring it back. We could bring back community.
Every day I sit and wonder how this sweet island gets so bitter. No salary but cost of living gets higher. We inhumane behavior, things don't turn upside down. Smiling faces becomes a frown. Guns the law, we now live in fear. People no longer seems to care. My heart is filled with pain and agony. I see a man begging for mercy. They rob him and they shoot up his body. I can't take no more. I pray for we safety. Sweetie and tea, bring it back. Land of the milk and honey, bring it back. Sweet family, the way that it used to be. Like long ago, what was mine was yours too. Bring it back. Peace and harmony, my red, white and black country. Bring it back, I say. Bring it up, 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 bring it up. Now all I see is darkness all over. Stray bullets have running for cover. Shedding tears has become so natural. Humans behaving more like animals. No respect for values anymore. Even the lawmakers breaking the law. Who can we trust? Tell me who to save. Is they undertakers? Dig new graves, wailing and boarding is the new band launches. New sizes of boxes we measure. Nearly all household you're hearing a morning. Live or a movie in Trinbago now showing. Bring it back, sweetie and tea. Bring it back. Land of the milk and honey. Bring it back. Sweet family, the way that it used to be. Bring it back. Like a long ago. What was mine was yours too. Bring it back. Peace and harmony, my red, white and black country.
Trinidad and Tobago, the country that we want, the better nation that we deserve, is outside on the other side of the vote that we make. We're going to vote by our feet. We're going to vote by our feet by standing up. We're going to vote with our hearts by getting involved. We're going to vote with our wallets by supporting the Progressive Empowerment Party because everything we do comes at a cost. We're going to vote with our actual vote. We're going to vote with our voice. We're going to spread the message. We're going to vote with our minds. We're going to think it through. We're going to have rational conversations with people to get them to understand that this is not about choosing a side. This is about hiring a government, and there is a difference. Stop getting caught up in the foolishness and the nonsense and the bacchanal and the noise. This is not about fighting down and fighting up. This is about a better nation for all of us. Red, white, black, green, and every shade in between. There is only one way to do that. well before it's too late. When he says your vote will decide, the difference between the minimum wage and a living wage is your vote to decide that. Jobs for all, real jobs, careers, is a vote to decide that. A proper functioning, diversified economy, it is your vote that will decide that. Education that leaves no child behind, that makes all schools prestige schools, zones them, abolishes the child abusing SEA. It is a vote to decide that. It is a vote that will clean up the police service. It is a vote that will undo and redo the failing justice system. It is your vote that will make a better country out of Trinidad and Tobago. The proceeds of your pitch lick is a vote away. You can't continue to vote charlatans into office and expect that they will do right by you.
If it is that who you're voting, baby, on a doubt. When you're voting, vote them out. Vote them out. If it is the proven to be your people amount. When you're voting, vote them out. Vote them out. If it is the time is now that
Change must come about. Just as how you vote them in.
vote them out.
Register and
Vote them out. If they don't see, vote them out. Shake your finger and vote them out. Show them no mercy, vote them out. Vote them out with total scorn.
and utter disdain.
Let's put our country together again. Put them out of power.
Terminate the reign.
Let's put our country together again. If for 30 years you voting them in, and these only tears,
As soon as they win,
they give you big words,
that enslave your souls.
promising you roads and giving potholes.
We need to fire them. Fire them with contempt. Fire them with malice. Fire them with vigor. You need to get ready to say you are fired. I wish I could fire you today. If there was a law that allowed me to fire you today, Keith Rowley, you'd be fired already. If there was a law that allowed me to fire you and your band of malcontents, I would have fired all of you yesterday. You deserve a firing. All of you are collectively robbing a village somewhere of its idiots. You need to go back to doing whatever it is you're doing, but do it far from the rest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. You've made a mess and a mockery of this beautiful country, and it is time we saw the back of you.
If they are the reason why the economy goes sprout, when you're voting, vote them out. Vote them out. If it is the passing laws that them alone can flout, when you're voting, vote them out. Vote them out. If it is the building I sought, east, west, north, and south, the same way you vote them in. Vote them out. Register and vote them out. Totally
watching a series called The Good Wife. Is a really well done series. If you're into law and you're into that, it's a good show and I'm enjoying it. Tonight on the show, I listened to the husband in the show tell his wife about a painting in Siena. So I went and I researched it, and that's why we're doing this live tonight, you know. The allegory of good and bad government. And this is why there is a live video tonight. The allegory of good and bad government is a series of 3 fresco panels painted by Ambrosio Lorenzetti between February 1338 and May 1339. The paintings are located in Siena's Palazzo Pubblico, specifically in the Sala dei Nove, Salon of 9, the council hall of the Republic of Siena's 9 executive magistrates, elected officials who performed executive functions and judicial ones in secular matters. The paintings have been construed as being designed to remind the 9 magistrates of just how much was at stake as they made their decisions. In his description, he said, in 2 of the paintings, in one are the people looking happy. Government is working, the courts are working, and the people are taken care of. And in the other painting, the people are unhappy because the government is failing and the courts can't do its job. And he said that he realized that the difference between the 2 paintings is that somebody has to step up. People have to make a difference to the way the country is run. The allegory of good and bad government. Live and learn, eh? I learned something new today.
If it is fabrication, these statements that they spout, when you're quoting, if it is that frustration, does make you want to shout, when you're quoting, before they misuse out,
T-Phone sell out and mix out.
if it you who tell it, register and all again, take your finger and them unresistant, put them out in Scarborough and in Port of Spain. Let's put our country together again. Put them out in Congo and in Lorraine. Let's put our country together again.
People must come first, citizens by right. Honor be ours, yellow, black or white. Food, shelter and clothes, free movement and speech. A garden that grows, and one law for each. Without a government that has a vision for the people, the country is going to perish. Ask yourself today, ask yourself if anything around you looks like it works. Ask yourself if anything in this country besides criminality and corruption looks like it was done by deliberate design. Nothing in Trinidad. Look at the Brian Lara Promenade. We had an Independence Square that was nasty. They replaced it with a Brian Lara Promenade that is nasty. We don't upkeep, we don't maintain, we don't invest, we don't share. We build things, we point at it, we pay people, we say we build that, and then the people don't get a chance to use it. We make a mess and a mockery of Trinidad and Tobago. Nothing in the Royal Imperial Majestic Banana Republic of do what the hell you like land works. And we have to undo that. I hate that I could say those things about my beautiful country and nobody could contradict me. I hate that I could say that nothing works, that we've never had good government, that not one prime minister has cared about the people. I hate that that is our truth. I hate that that is our legacy. We have to change that.
If it is that injustice is what they always show, when you're quoting food them out. If it is that avarice
It's all they seem to know.
when you're quoting food them out.
If it is their politics, it's just a puppy show. When election day come, all that it must go.
Register and
All 41.
if they don't see
just share the allegory of good and bad government on my wall. It's there, it's a painting. That I was only able to share the image of good governance, but you could go on the Wikipedia. There's a lot to read. Go and read it and see and understand. Government has a function in society. Everything has a function in society, but government more so. Government sets the tone, the tenor, the timbre. Government reflects the will of the people, but it also shapes it. Government gives us a chance to stand up and stand out. Government gives us the opportunity to maximize our fullest potential. Hope and opportunity are the twin rails of a country dedicated to making sure all of the people have a chance at manifesting their best self. If what you want is a better Trinidad and Tobago, if you want a Trinidad and Tobago that could stand toe-to-toe with all of the first world nations, all of the best nations, all of the developed nations. If you want a food independent Trinidad and Tobago, crime free, where every creed and race finds an equal place, you have to vote for the Progressive Empowerment Party. And if you think that I am joking, this election here is going to be the deciding election for Trinidad and Tobago. You see where Venezuela reached? This election coming here, we have one, maybe. We have one possibility, one chance, one little hope, one glimmer. Don't waste it. Don't waste it. I can't do this for the next 5 years, you know. We have one chance at this. You have one hope. You have one opportunity to rescue this country. Come and get involved. Don't make this about personalities, you know. Don't make this about who you love and who you hate. Make this about your country. Make this about a better place for everybody. Have the conversation. Insist on the conversation. If we don't fix it, we're going to be in trouble. Trinidad and Tobago, pay attention. This is our truth. Stay safe. Trinidad and Tobago.